Alrighty. So, hey everybody, Jim here over at RPG Enlightenment, and hopefully the glitches with my computer are fixed. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to wait for people to hop into the chat to let me know. Sorry, my hair is like horrible. But yeah, got some crazy hair going on. But if it's going to be working today, because it's still showing me a little bit of lag. So hopefully that's going to be fixed. If you can't hear me or something's wrong, just put it in the chat and we'll figure it out best we can. But anyway, today I'm going to talk about the Adventura race Engel. I did a Poupon video, I think like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, and that video was actually supposed to be this video. And for some reason I skipped ahead, but I have to do that video over anyway because the sound quality and there was a lot of lag. But hopefully we'll get that up sometime this week or maybe next week. But yeah, so I'm going to be talking about the Engel as a race, and they're the only race in Adventura that have they have the ability to fly. They actually have wings. They're born with wings. It's something that's it's their biology. It's a physical feature that they have. So the unique thing about the Engel is that these wings can look really like anybody's or any creature's wings. They can be, butterfly-esque. They can be like bat wings. They can be what we consider angel wings. Come in a variety of different colors, and it all kind of depends on the region that they grew up, and that influences it a lot. But they can also have a different number of wings. Some may only have 2, others may have 4 or 5. Normally, even number, but there are genetic defects and stuff just like with anybody, so there are rare cases where you have an odd number of wings. And just like in real life society, they are kind of considered outcasts because they don't look the same as the rest of their race. So that's something common that does happen. Another thing is they're incredibly intelligent. They are an evolutionary branch from Duncan, which are the humans. Their brains are a little bit larger, and specifically this makes it where they can comprehend more. They have a better memory, almost to the point of being photographic. Because of this, they kind of view themselves as they are more intelligent, but they're viewing themselves as more intelligent than any other race. Through and just talk a little bit about the mechanics and kind of how they work. All right. So yeah, so Engel are they're actually one of the few races that have negatives to like their force. If you haven't watched any of my other videos on the races, the way the stats work in Adventura are there's 7 of them. There's force, finesse, physique, mental, intuition, charm, and mana. And all races have these. These are the basic stats. Engel have a -1 to force, which means they have a below average strength in D&D terms. They're more designed to be mental and to be very intellectual. So they're not very strong. They're not by any means super weak. Some of them can be, but it's really just a matter of they don't train their bodies as much as their minds. Finesse, which is kind of dexterity. It's how good they are with their hands, how limber they are, and that's actually above average with a 2. 0 is considered average. So they're actually a little bit above average with their finesse. And that has to do with the fact that they use their hands for a lot of things. This doesn't mean that forcefully wise, it's work smarter, not harder. But they are very elegant with the things they do with their hands. They make a lot of books. They do a lot of writing. They make very intricate paintings and tapestries and things like that. So they have a very, or at least a well-off finesse score. Physique, kind of like force. Physique is a -1. This is how healthy body-wise, like how strong their body is and how off with their immune system. I can't think of a better way of saying that. But they talking about their immune system and how that's -1. So they're, once again, they're not training their bodies up all that much. So physically, they're a lot weaker than other races. Their mental stat is the highest. This is their intelligence, how smart they are. And that's a 3. So they are pretty well off with their intelligence. And this kind of comes from that fact that they do have that larger brain, so they're able to take in more. And this is natural to them. Of course, they have to learn it, but it's very easy for Engel to learn. They only have to be shown things a couple of times before they completely understand it. Intuition, which is like their instinct, or wisdom in D&D terms, and that's a 0, as well as their charm, which is like charisma. It's how they deal with people, is a 0. So they're average. But on in any given circumstance, that 0 for any character could change because some individuals are different or more, maybe more charismatic than others, or things like that. The last stat is mana, and that's the casting force. This affects how much magic they have. They have a little bit more than most of the other races, with a 1, which is just above average. And that's just because of the development over the centuries that they've been around, since they had that evolutionary branch from the Duncan. And they've just started to be able to manifest more mana within their bodies. And so that's their stats. Josh. Yep, doing your race. Okay, now that I've got somebody in the chat, are y'all able to hear me okay? Because to me, it looks like I'm glitching real bad and that I can't tell myself. So yeah, if you'll just let me know in the chat if y'all can actually hear me. But yeah, so I was going to go on to their lifespan. They actually live for a relatively long time in Adventura terms. They live for about a minimum of 145 years to about mid-range is about 200 years. Some of them, of course, can live a little bit longer. It all depends on the individual. It's a big theme in this is that, these are just base. There's no real, or estimates, I guess you should say, minutes of how long. Some can live less or more, just depending. Height, they're fairly tall individuals. They're between 5'5" and 6'2". And they're very thin, and I guess you could call them tone. It's not so much, they don't really so much have muscle though. They do, of course, but they're not toned individuals. They're just very thin and lanky. Once again, they don't train their body that much. It's more about the mental. If in a combat situation, I'm gonna outsmart my opponent more so than I am going to try and beat them to the ground with my fists. They can weigh anywhere between about 80 pounds to 130 pounds. So they're fairly light, but you would kind of expect that with beings that fly. They need to be able to lift themselves with their wings. Which, for some reason, every time I start trying to talk about stuff, my computer starts glitching and I can't go to my files. But going right into that wings thing, Engel are born with wings, kind of like I mentioned before, and they see how to say this. The wings mature with them, so they're going to have smaller wings when they're born. They are still born with wings, though, and they'll mature as the Engel mature. They're going to be able to fly once their wings develop fully. Engel may develop a little bit faster than others. Probably one part of their body that they do kind of work out and train because they do fly. They live on a chain of islands called the Engel Isle, and it's roughly 100 different islands, varying sizes. It's also where the religious capital for Ashanvi, the goddess of knowledge, is where that is located. That's what a lot of Engel follow. Not all of them, because they all have different priorities and stuff, but a lot of them, because it's the knowledge religion. They're all about knowledge. They kind of gravitate towards it. At least look into it. But to get from one island to another, why take a boat when you could fly? So they fly a lot. And their fly speed is equal to their movement speed, which is a base of 30, but depending on some of your choices during character creation and such, that could increase or decrease. And that will also affect the fly speed. So if you go from 30 to 20, now you only have a 20 fly speed as well. So that all matters. Intelligence. Engel have a +1 to mental saving throws. Saving throws in this game are any kind of check that aren't done on your turn. So if somebody affects you with an ability that is, say, causing an illusion of some kind, and you're going to try and mentally work through it, that's a mental saving throw. Or if it's doesn't fall under a specific category of skill, then the GM could just say, hey, give me a mental saving throw. Well, they get a +1 to that. So that's actually going to help quite a bit in the long run. Okay, so they have a little stat thing called higher than the rest. They can add +2 to all of their skill values. And the way skill values work is you start with an 8 as your skill value. What you want to do is you want to roll a d20 and try and make under that number. So the more you increase it, the easier it is for you to do. So they actually get a +2 to all of their mental skills, all of them. Any kind of knowledge skill, then they get a +2 to. So that means it automatically bumps it up from an 8 to a 10. So roughly a 50-50 chance. Now, Engel are also one of have a major penalty to them, and this is the fact that while they're flying, they can't use bows. They also can't make sword attacks or use any kind of weapons that require 2 hands. And this is specifically while they are flying. And there's an actual reason for this. It's because I believe the channel is little channel, awesome guy that I found on YouTube, and he was going through all the different races in D&D and fantasy, and was talking about winged races and how it doesn't make sense for a creature that has wings, that's back muscles, using to flap those wings, how they're going to be able to use those same back muscles to draw a bow. This does not make sense. Not only that, but when you fire a bow, you're firing sideways. You turn to the side. Well, if you turn to the side like that, your wings are going to get messed up. Your elbow is having to be pulled back, which is where those wings are flapping. There's all these things. Same thing with swinging a sword. If you're going to swing a sword, no matter which way you do it, you're going to sooner or later hit one of those wings. So there's a lot of issues with that. In Adventura, there are no crossbows. So otherwise, that would be a good way to kind of get around that. But there's no crossbows in Adventura, so they can't really use any ranged weapons except for like maybe throwing a rock or dropping more so a rock. They're not really throwing because once again, you're going to have to reach back and throw. So yeah, so they actually have a pretty major penalty. And then lastly, they get 2 languages of their choice. They can choose any 2 languages, but they also get Engelven, which is the Engel language. And this is just because of their wide variety of studies. They get a lot of different. They get a lot of different exposure because some works are only written in certain languages, so they need to learn those to be able to do it. But yeah, so that's really it for the Engel. I mean, I know I got a couple people watching, so I mean, if you have any questions or anything you want to throw out there. What Josh says, what inspired the race? I really don't even know. I think honestly, what it was back in the days when Adventura was supposed to be a book that I was writing. I was looking for a lot of inspiration from pictures and fantasy pictures specifically, and I realized that a lot of them came up with wings. And because I'm very whenever I'm creating or drawing inspiration, pictures are a huge source for me. I know it is for everybody, but I rely very heavily on pictures. And a lot of them had wings, so I had to come up with a way to justify why I was using this character, this inspiration, if what I was creating didn't have wings. So it just kind of came out of the fact that a lot of pictures I saw had wings. So I was like, hey, yeah, that's pretty cool. I'm going to give them wings. And then honestly, a lot of like the intelligence and stuff, I don't know where that came from. I've been working on Adventura for years and years, and I really can't recall when I came up with the fact that, this is going to be the super intelligent race. I'm not sure. Not real sure. Josh says, do you feel like having a race with a fly speed would make it difficult to DM? I don't believe so. I can see where a lot of people are hesitant to let people fly with in D&D, the Aarakocra. How that can get confusing or get annoying or complicated. I really do. But to me, it seems more like if you allow it, just like in D&D and Adventura, if you want to say, hey guys, I don't want a fly speed, so don't use Engel, or use Engel and one of your wings is ripped off completely or damaged beyond repair, so you can't fly. That way you still can play the race, but you don't get the fly speed. But like in D&D, you can say no Aarakocra. Okay, cool. So can't have a flying character. That's awesome. But if you allow it, then you should be able to, at least my opinion is, you should be able to adjust to that. You should be able to have contingencies for, okay, this character is flying constantly. What am I going to do? Well, I'm going to fill that sky full of arrows. Something's going to hit him. And maybe even like a rainstorm. Brew a rainstorm up. It's a thunderstorm. There's heavy winds, heavy rain. You're going to have to land eventually. And Adventura specifically, though, a lot of stuff is flavor-based. So if it would be my hope that you as a player would be able to say, I'm flying, and eventually I'm going to get tired. I can't fly forever. And especially in the midst of combat, you're going to be doing wide turns. You're going to have to be constantly on alert. You're going to constantly have to be like looking around, and you have 2 giant targets on your back that are flapping and moving, which they're moving constantly, but that kind of adds to the fact that they might get hit, because you really can't control all that much of where they're going to go. You have very limited range of movement. So I think no matter what, it's going to be easy to, I guess, control, or to GM for somebody that's flying, just because you can always throw something at them. If you feel like you can't, I would say that you need to do a little bit of work as a GM to come up with some ways to challenge yourself to be able to adjust to situations, or just talk to your players. I mean, Grant Kress DM'd for me one time, and I played an Aarakocra, and I specifically asked him, "Hey, you know, how does fly work? I've never worked with any kind of creature that could fly." He was open with me and was like, "You know, it's cool to fly, but if you're going to be hovering for the entire game and flying around, then I'm going to have to start having levels of exhaustion and stuff." And so that was cool. And I was like, okay, cool. So, I mean, we have an understanding that as long as I stop and rest every once in a while, I'll be good. Same thing kind of just carries over into Adventura. And that was really long-winded. For anybody that doesn't know, I'm an extremely long-winded person. And I would just go and go and go until somebody's like, hey, stop. So, but yeah. Let's see. Any other questions from anybody? I see I just got somebody else watching. But yeah, so if anybody has any other questions, comments, or you're just interested in the Engel or Adventura altogether, just put it in the comments. And check us out. Oh, Josh just said, are they an evil race? No, Josh, they are not technically an evil race. But I mean, yeah, if you, okay, because he said, Josh says, are they an evil race? Because I want to be evil. That is fine. Here, how about this? This is an easy one for you. Are humans an evil race? And now I mean that in like the broad sense. Are we an evil race? And then break that down to, are you an evil person? Am I an evil person? And Josh, you may have a different opinion on that than I do. But are you an evil person? Is your brother, your sister, your mom, whoever, or the people you know, are they evil people or are they good people? A race in general, I'm not going to categorize as good or evil. Individuals and their actions define them as being good or evil. And that's really a big thing for Adventura. That's like in D&D how they have the alignments. I did away with that completely in Adventura because I don't believe that that you can specifically be one thing continuously. That you are always going to break outside of the norm. You're always going to be neutral. And races in general are kind of like that. They're neutral. Because although the Dunkim are pretty sick and twisted individuals, just because they kind of are overall evil. But once again, that's not going into individual people. Everybody individually kind of makes up their own mind. So no, they are not an evil race. Now, I would say that Raptora are probably Raptora and Dunkim are the closest. Dunkim, just because they believe as a race, they are better than everybody else. They're kind of like human supremacy kind of thing. And Raptora are animalistic. They're very, not savage, because that's the wrong word, but they're very primal. They believe, The strong eat the weak, and because of that, they have different kind of morals than like humans do. And by kind of by trade and by their growing up environment, they're normally slave traders. They'll go and capture other races and sell them in slavery to other races. That's just kind of how they are. So they're probably the closest thing to evil. Engel, though, are just arrogant. They're very cocky and self-centered individuals. But yeah, I won't take up any more time from y'all. Like I said, if you have any questions or anything, just put it in the comment section. If I get enough comments on the Engel or really on any specific fact about Adventura, I'll make another video on it. But yeah, check us out on Instagram and Twitter, RPG Enlightenment. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time. Later.